Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, my name is Zakawali, and in this video, I will tell you about pronunciation practice. But before we going to that, I will read some novel first, and that contains about 10 words that I will pronunciation practice, and I hope you guys enjoy. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of Number 4, Private Drive, were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. They were the last people you expect to be involved in anything strange or mysterious, because they just didn't hold with such nonsense. Mr. Dursley was the director of a firm called Groenings, which made drills. He was a big, beefy man with hardly any neck, although he did have a very large mustache. Mrs. Dursley was thin and blonde and had nearly twice the usual amount of neck, which came in very useful, as she spent so much of her time running over garden pens, spying on the neighbors. The Dursley had a small son called Dudley, and in their opinion there was no finer boy anywhere. The Dursley had everything they want, but they also had a secret, and their greatest fear was that somebody would discover it. They didn't think they could bear if anyone found out about the Potters. Mrs. Potter was Mr. Dursley's sister, but they hadn't met for several years. In fact, Mr. Dursley pretended she didn't have a sister, because her sister and her good-for-nothing husband were as as Dursleys as it was possible to be. The Dursley shuddered to think that what the neighbors would say if the Potters arrived in the street. The Dursley knew that the Potters had a small son too, but they had never ever seen him. This boy was another good reason for keeping the Potters away. They didn't want Dudley mixing with a child like that. When Mr. and Mrs. Dursley woke up on the dull, greatest day our story started. There was nothing about the cloudy sky outside to suggest that strange and mysterious things would soon be happening all over the country. Mr. Dursley hummed and as he picked out his most boring tie for work, and Mrs. Dursley gasped away heavily as she wrestled screaming Dudley into his high chair. None of them noticed a large tawny owl flutter past the window. At 8:30, Mr. Dursley picked up his briefcase, picked Mrs. Dursley on the cheek, and tried to kiss Dudley goodbye, but missed, because Dudley was now having a tantrum and throwing his cereal at the walls. Little Tyke chortled Mr. Dursley as he left the house. He got into his car and backed director out of the number 4 drive. It was on the corner of the street that he noticed the first sign of something peculiar. A cat reading a map. For a second, Mr. Dursley didn't realize what he had seen. Then he jerked his head out around to look again. There was a tabby cat standing on the corner of Private Drive, but there wasn't a map in sight. What could he have been thinking of? It must have been a trick of the light. Mr. Dursley blinked and stared at the cat. It started back. As Mr. Dursley drove around the corner and up the road, he watched the cat in his mirror. It was it was now reading the sign that said Private Drive. No, looking at the sign, cats could read maps or signs. Mr. Dursley gave himself a little shake and put the cat out of his mind. As he drove towards town, he thought of nothing except a large order of drills he was hoping to get that day. Okay, and now we will into pronunciation practice. Okay, for the first word is perfectly, is a plosive, and it's a p sound, p sound, p sound. It's complete block of air followed by explosion. As you can see, this is the example of the image. Both lips is touched together, or the mouth is closed. Meanwhile, the tongue is in the midair. And the second word is back, is a plosive, and is a b sound. Is the position is just like the p sound, and the third is director, is a plosive too, and is a d sound. For the sound is this the example is like this, like the image. As you can see, the mouth is made open, so and the tongue is touch the upper of the jaws. And if you do this position, it will make the sound, the sound. And next is four, it's a fricative, constant, and is a sound. Um, Maybe you guys wondering why it's just a blue air, but sound is an unvoiced, so just like that. It's a constant flow of air squeezed through a block. Sounds like friction. Okay, as you can see, this is the image of the sound. The mouth is little open, and the tongue is in the down. So if you do this, it will make a sound. And next is number. Is a sound, and is a nasal. Air is released through the nose. As you can see, this is the image of the nasal and sound. The the mouth is made open, and meanwhile the tongue is in the upstairs on the jaws. And if you do this position, it will make an sound, sound, sound. Okay, next word is drove, is sound, sound. It's like is an approximant vowel like consonant, no full block of air occurs. Okay, r, sound, sound is like the position is like this. The mouth is little open, and meanwhile the tongue is touch the upper of the jaws. And if you do this, it will make the r sound, sound, sound. Again, next is a 10, is from the short vowel, and is an E sound, E sound, E sound. Okay, the position is just like this. Is the mouth is mid closed or mid open. Meanwhile, the tongue is in the mid air. Next is useful. Same like the 10 is a short vowel and is a U sound. U sound. U sound. U sound. Okay, for the position is still mid close or mid open. The mouth still mid close, and meanwhile the tongue is in the back. Next is a cat, and is an sound, uh sound, uh 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 sound, and it's a short vowel too. And the position is like this. For the mouth is open, big open, and meanwhile the as you can see the tongue is reach the uppers of the jaws. If you do this, it will make an sound, cut. And the last one is they, it's a diphthong, and it's use a sound, a, 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 and it's double mouth position. As you can see, this is image. This is the example of the image. They have two position mouth, and the position one is like this. The mouth is open, meanwhile the tongue is reach the upper of the jaws. And the second position is the mouth is mid closed or mid open, but the tongue is still same and touch the upper of the jaws. Okay, maybe that's all from me. And wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.